Hello and welcome, 2D Gamer back again. I'm doing this ad-libbed, so hopefully I will not ramble too much, but today marks a very interesting day in gaming history. Today is the 20th anniversary of the PlayStation 2's launch in North America. The launch guide I was working on for the system, I'm still not done with, have had a lot of stuff going on since I started that video. But, what an exciting time in gaming history. I don't know if you were around for the PS2 launch. It was roughly a year after the Dreamcast had a really awesome launch too, but for me the PS2 launch was like, I don't know. At that time in gaming, it was like, I think that was the last actual system launch I had any excitement for. It was such an, I don't want to be like mystical and be like, it was such a magical time in gaming. Everything was hunky-dory and beautiful. But no, I totally wanted a PlayStation 2 at launch. I didn't get one at launch. In fact, I didn't get one until about a year later. But man, the hype for the system, and whether or not, I don't know, I say the system eventually did live up to the massive hype. Maybe not the graphical hype over the system, considering the GameCube and Xbox came out and just stole the thunder right there. But as far as the game library, which is massive, I forgot to look up how many games are in the system. In the system's library, but I own about 400, give or take, and I've been covering the PS2 since 2007 here on YouTube, trying to highlight some of the hidden and underrated games. But for me, like, the launch was so exciting. It was an exciting part in gaming history. Just even going back, if you even find like magazines from that time, it just I don't know, I guess I was younger then and everything seemed a lot more exciting. Now as like the PS5 is launching and Xbox, I haven't even gotten a PS4, let alone an Xbox One. I'm still in the PS Wii era of gaming. I know I should upgrade, but you know, whatevs. I just haven't been that exciting for gaming or any systems launching since. For me, I think my favorite launch game on the system still is Time Splitters. I mean, it was an exciting launch. You remember how Madden 2001, that was the graphical powerhouse. We had never seen anything like it. If you even go back and you compare it to PS1 or N64 Madden, it's just the fluidity of movement and the lifelike movement, the motion capture they used, and then just at the graphics, looking at it, like, at first, it used to trick your eyes to make you think you were looking at an actual NFL game. But Madden was huge for these graphical things. SSX was, probably the most critically acclaimed launch PS2 game. But gaming-wise, the PS2 was that system that we bought early on, waiting for Final Fantasy X and Metal Gear Solid and Gran Turismo 3, and my PS2 that I got 1 year later, or on Christmas, what is it, so that would have been 2002, Christmas 2002, I got a PS2 with Gran Turismo 3 as a pack-in, and Time Splitters. Time Splitters was the game I wanted the most at launch. I was so excited whenever I heard that the GoldenEye team was working on, like, a game for the PS2. At the time, this seemed so, like, there wasn't SEGA developing games for Sony at the time, so this was like a Nintendo developer moving on to put a game on the PS2. And actually, I like Time Splitters better than Perfect Dark, which came out roughly within the same time period. Honestly, I mean, maybe not for the single player, but the bot multiplayer, like, I remember prior, I had a friend who owned a PS2, and I only owned a Dreamcast at the time. So, around the time the PS2 launched, and you couldn't find it in the stores, because Sony launched with, supposedly, I think, 500,000 systems in the launch maybe less. I've heard different numbers. There was always speculation. There was that rumor that, who remembers the rumor that Saddam Hussein, went and bought, like, I don't know, supposedly like 20,000 PlayStation 2s to get the chips to use in missiles. I don't think that was ever confirmed. I think that was just like an internet rumor. But I think I remember hearing it, like, it got like news coverage or something, like, that's why there's no PS2s, it's because of Saddam. But who remembers that rumor? That was anyway. So as whenever the system launched, I actually got a Dreamcast instead of a PS2 because, well, you couldn't find a PS2. My brother had come back from like the Navy on leave and bought me a Dreamcast. It came with the Smash Pack. The Smash Pack is crap. Well, it's not crap, but just the sound. They just didn't emulate the sound in the Smash Pack, or they made their own soundtracks. It's terrible. If you ever play Sega Smash Pack on the Dreamcast, just, rip your earballs out because it's terrible. Rip your earballs out. Anyways, so 1 year later, for Christmas, I ended up getting a PS2. Oh, that's right. So, that's the story I was going to say. See, I'm rambling, but, so I had a friend who had a PS2, and I had a Dreamcast. He wanted to play the Dreamcast. I wanted to play a PS2. So, for a bit, we traded. I let him borrow my Dreamcast, I borrowed his PS2, and the first game I rented, that's right, when rental stores was still a thing, the first game I rented was Time Splitters, and I had a ton of fun with that game. Then we ended up switching back, and I ended up getting a PS2 later, again, and the first game I got was Gran Turismo 3 as a pack-in, and Time Splitters as well. I still love Time Splitters. The first one moves so fast, anyways. But, yeah, so, I mean, and then after that, I mean, so, within the next year, I ended up getting a GameCube for, I think, I used my graduation money to get a GameCube. I didn't have a job at this point. I wasn't allowed to have a job in high school because, I don't know, my parents just didn't let me. So, I had a GameCube. And then my PS2 got the dreaded disc read error. So for over a year, I went without a PS2. Until I finally ended up, getting a job, and one of the first things I bought. Actually, the first thing I bought was an Xbox. And then a PS2, because this is around the time the Xbox dropped to $150. And I wanted to play Shenmue 2, Panzer Dragoon, Orta, and... what was Deus Ex, The Invisible War. So that's around the time that I got an Xbox for those games. And there was one other, and none of which were Halo. But so I ended up getting a PS2. I ended up buying a Slim. So by this time the Slim was out. By the time I finally got back around to getting a PS2. So, yes, I was affected by the dreaded disc read error, and that's the Slim I had until it broke, right after my Armored Core 2 review, right around, 2013, I want to say. Maybe it was 2014, anyway. So I had that thing for, like, a decade. So, as far as, like, early system favorites, it's hard to actually choose a system favorite game for the PS2 because it lasted so long. It's like, which phase of its lifetime do I choose, like, a favorite game? So, like, early system favorites, obviously, Time Splitters. I remember playing SSX with a close friend. We spent an entire afternoon. So, we wanted to get the gold in every single race, and we spent, like, 4 hours on, I think it was Elysium Alps. One of them that we just couldn't, because we were playing with Elise, and for whatever reason, so we'd just sit there and we'd try and get first place in all 3 runs, and we just kept screwing it up, so... Early system favorites would be like Time Splitters, of course, Gran Turismo 3. It was so beautiful at the time. Metal Gear Solid 2. I mean, irregardless of how people look back at Metal Gear Solid 2, like, just go and watch the intro of Metal Gear Solid 2. Like, that was one of the biggest, exciting launch games of this, or not launch games, but early games within that first year, that critical first year of the system. We got Gran Turismo 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Final Fantasy X, and of course, the giant 800-pound gorilla that no one saw coming, Grand Theft Auto 3, which was huge, but it wasn't huge before launch. Like, before it launched, it didn't get a lot of coverage because Grand Theft Auto, the first 2 on the, first 3 technically with the London 1969 London pack, which was like an expansion for a PS1 game, which is kind of interesting, but it didn't get they didn't get a lot of great reviews or good coverage. But so Grand Theft Auto 3 just kind of hit the entire gaming community out of nowhere. It was kind of what we were calling for with things like Driver and then Driver 2. Like, we wanted a fully 3D world where you could run over people and do this stuff. So, it just kind of, we were kind of thinking that way. I say we, but it seemed the gaming consensus from my perspective at the time, because we didn't have, like, there wasn't a whole lot of huge internet presence at the time. So between magazine editors or letters to the editors and magazines and other things, is gamers really actually wanted like that 3D Grand Theft Auto, and GTA 3 just blew everyone away and just blew everything out of the water as far as sales. Like, that was the game to get a PlayStation 2 for the longest time. I mean, we initially wanted Metal Gear Solid 2 and Final Fantasy X and Gran Turismo 3 and trying to think of other big games that everyone was hyped about at the time. But so early system favorites, it's again, it's hard to say. I'm trying to think back. I mean, the PS2 lasted so long. It's like, which phase of its lifespan? I remember buying Devil May Cry brand new, $50, because I played my friend came over one time with the Code Veronica X, which had the Devil May Cry demo in it, and because of that demo, I went and I actually bought the game brand new, which was rare for me at the time, at least paying the $50 to buy a new game, because I rarely ever had $50. But so I bought Devil May Cry new. That was another early system favorite, but after that I kind of burnt out of the series and kind of stayed away from that genre of games. I don't know why. It's just, I just kind of got like annoyed how in Devil May Cry it seemed like you'd fight a boss and then it was luck or random whether or not you'd get completely murdered by this boss, or whether or not like the boss would somehow take it lenient on you. It seemed so, I don't know, it seemed kind of like a cheap thing to me at the time. So that's why I even later avoided even games like God of War that reminded me of Devil May Cry. I did end up going back and playing God of War, which is another one for best game on the system by the mainstream outlets. Let's see, I'm just looking at my PS2 gaming shelf right now, just trying to, there's so many games and so many phases, like, which phase of the system's life, there's so many memories. Oh, that was my phone. Headshot. Unreal Tournament, also released on the PS2 at launch. Let's see, I'm just looking at my gaming shelf right now, just, there's so many hidden gems, or sleeper hits, or whatever you want to call it. Of course, you have your Eco or Ico, and your Shadow of the Colossus, which Eco or /Ico at one time was a hidden gem. It was completely overlooked by the general gaming public, or an underrated gem, however I want to say it. Anyways, but that's another one that people always put on the top 10 best system list. But there are so many games, and it's not that I always disagree with the mainstream on what the best game on the system is. The best 5 games, God of War, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus. It's just there's so many games, and for me, I guess it's all personal experience. Like, 2 different gamers can experience this system because its library was so vast and so deep that you can't really just, I mean, no 2 people had the same experience with the system. There's the big mainstream experiences that most of us had, but even then, like, if you were a young kid, maybe your favorite game on the system is, I don't know, a SpongeBob game or something, because you didn't play God of War because, well, hopefully, I mean, if you were that young, hopefully your parents were a little bit more responsible. I don't know. But let's see. Just looking at my shelf. You got PsyOps, the Mindgate Conspiracy, Midway on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox was an excellent developer. I think Midway's best hidden games are on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. That whole era, they were on fire. They made fantastic games that just didn't seem to get as much mainstream recognition as they should have. Of course, you had your Mortal Kombats, and you know, that one, they revamped Mortal Kombat and made it viable, because at the time it had become stagnant after like Mortal Kombat 4 and then Motor Kombat Gold on the Dreamcast. Mortal Kombat Gold. 3D Mortal Kombat, 2D Mortal Kombat. People were just tired of Mortal Kombat. They'd kind of moved on. It was about, Tekken and Soul Calibur and, just like, ew, Mortal Kombat. And then was it Annihilation, the first one? I don't know. I'd have to look at my shelf and double check. I don't own every Mortal Kombat for the PS2, which is kind of strange, considering I have over 400 games. But there's, of course, I don't even know if I'm a collector, but if you're someone who has a big collection for any system, of course there's going to be some games you don't own that slipped through the gaps. Let's see. Looking at my gaming shelf. Jak and Daxter. Naughty Dog, after losing the license to Crash Bandicoot because it was owned by Universal Interactive Studios, went on to make the first Jak and Daxter and then Jak 2 and Jak 3, but the original is still my favorite. But I remember the early difficulties that developers had with the PS2, and I still found this old article where Jason Rubin was talking trash to the Factor 5 guys about the GameCube versus the PS2, so Jason Rubin, this was before Jak came out, and he's like, well, wait and see what we have. And the way he described it was a third generation graphic engine in probably the second generation of graphics. And Jak and Daxter, if you look at a lot of games released in, when was that, 2001, I want to say, or wait, no, I'd have to look at 2002, 2003, maybe even for Jak and Daxter. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I go and pull it off my shelf to see if I can even see it there. But anyway, so yeah, Naughty Dog coming through, Jak and Daxter, and then Insomniac, who lost Spyro to Universal Interactive Studios, came out with Ratchet and Clank. There weren't a lot of huge platformers on the PS1, but if you ask me, the second-party developers on the PS2, their platformer franchises, and even that's a genre. 3D platformers have pretty much died outside of Mario, and I think there's still Ratchet. But at the time, Sony's second-party developers really stepped it up in that area. You got Sly, you got Jak, you got Ratchet, and they're still Under the Radar, Ape Escape, which was one of the biggest PS1 games or most popular platformers on the PS1, but when it came to the PS2, it kind of fell under the radar, all the Ape Escape games, because they were bigger, more popular games like Jak, Ratchet, coming out at the time. And then there were the developers and franchises that just didn't seem to make that jump from PS1 to PS2, that were pretty big on the PS1, but just couldn't quite make it on the PS2. NFL Gameday, there was a huge rivalry every year, Gameday versus Madden, and later it was 2K versus Madden, but for the first rivalry, Gameday would upshow Madden, and it was just kind of one of those old, one of these days someone should make a video about Gameday versus Madden, and how Gameday would show up Madden every year. But then come Gameday 2001, it was buggy, it was messed up, and then ever since then, by the end of it, I guess before EA bought the NFL license, Gameday started to get better, but by that time it was too little too late. Core Design died in that generation of gaming for releasing a bad Tomb Raider game, or a buggy Tomb Raider game. I don't know, I'm sure people have covered as to why. It was probably time limits and it's probably more time limits and pressure. But of their games on the PS2, I like Project Eden, which is also kind of buggy. I like Hurdy-Gurdy. It's been years. I don't think I've played that game since I put up footage for that game back however many years ago. One of these days I should pop it in and play all the way through it. And they also did Operation Thunderstrike or something like that, which was a helicopter shooter. So Core Design did not make the jump from PS1 to PS2. Let's see. Syphon Filter kind of suffered. Near the end, they did put out Dark Mirror as a PSP to PS2 port, so Syphon Filter kind of became a more viable release, but The Omega strain kind of flopped, but it had online. And that's another really cool thing about the PS2 is my first online system experience was with the PS2. A lot of other people, it was Xbox, Dreamcast, maybe even X-Band if you're old school. But one of my good friends bought SOCOM US Navy SEALs on the PlayStation 2. And it's kind of amusing because even on my old PS2 online videos, I'd have kids come in and comment and be like, the PS2 didn't have online. It's like, yes, bro, it had online. Sony released the online adapter, and every Slim has the network adapter built into it. But when a Sony released the network adapter, they released it as like an add-on to the system, which generally they don't do that well. And then for a while there, they were selling PS2s with the network adapter in it. I remember seeing those at Best Buy and stuff too. But so my friend picked up SOCOM US Navy SEALs. The gameplay was essentially just Counter-Strike, but a little bit more slower and, tactical in feel. But it was basically just a ripoff of Counter-Strike, whereas you died, you had 1 life per round. And if you died, you'd have to watch your teammates go and kick butt. It was a game that there was no respawn. So you incrementally, by not dying and just learning, like it was tough learning. It didn't hold your hand. There weren't a lot of easy kills. Some of you Counter-Strike players can relate to how hard it was to actually get good at that game because you had 1 life. So SOCOM didn't hold your hand, but man, it was so fun, and that was like the introduction to headsets. And that's another thing that SOCOM had in its single player that was a trend for a little bit but kind of disappeared, was headset voice commands to your squad mates. There's actually a bunch of PS2 games that a lot of people don't even know that you can actually do headset commands to your squad mates. Games like Delta Force Black Hawk Down, the Ghost Recon games, I think Ghost Recon 2, trying to think, I think maybe even Rainbow Six 3. And of course, Lifeline. Everyone knows about Lifeline, but, well, maybe you don't. But it's an entire game where you play it via headset command. So for a little bit, like, because in SOCOM you have that little menu you can pull down to tell your teammates, but maybe you never knew this, in every single SOCOM game, if you plug in the headset, you can hear that leader lady talking to you through your ear, and you can just be like, Bravo, breach, bang, clear, Bravo, fire at will, let's see. There's all sorts of attack to Zulu. You can send your teammates off just to do whatever. Sometimes, just attack to Alpha. But so SOCOM also, I mean, that was our introduction to online headsets online, at least for me. And in the original SOCOM, it didn't tell you who was talking. So there were times that me and my buddy would just like troll everyone, and like we'd just do a funny voice and just be like, there's nothing more beautiful than whales. And then we'd click on and be like, who said that? Shut up, dude. Or epic arguments at the dawn of online gaming. And of course you had the little DJs that wanted to play their crappy music and but the thing about SOCOM is it wasn't open chatter. One person could talk at a time. That's how they did it, to try and keep like communication. So occasionally you had some really cool conversations. That's how I'm sure there's still friends today online because of the original SOCOM. But yeah, so that was my introduction to online gaming on the PS2. And there were so many games that have online on the PS2. And again, there were people on my early YouTube comments whenever I would show videos of these games when they were still online. They'd be like, the PS2 didn't have online. It's like, yes, the PS2 had online. The Xbox had online. The GameCube had Game Boy Advance compatibility and like one online game. But yeah, that was comparable to online Nintendo. Great job. Anyway, so let's see, what are some of the other online games I used to play? I used to play the crap out of Delta Force Black Hawk Down with my brother and my best friend at the time, anyways, I won't go into that, but he's no longer here. Anyways, so I have great memories of playing with a close friend who I just lost in April, and my brother, and we just get on and Delta Force was fun. It was in the main servers there were 32 players, and you can also do your own server with 8-player games. There were glitches, and it was think of a Modern Warfare minus the perks, and that was Delta Force Black Hawk Down on the PS2. Controls wise and mechanics wise, superior to the Xbox version, even with the online. The Xbox version had 50-player games and like an absurd auto aim. I actually did eventually play the Xbox one online, and it just wasn't even comparable. The PS2 version, better play mechanics, uglier graphics, but like just way better on the PS2. The Xbox version mirrored the PC version more. On the PS2, you had like a quick grenade throw, and it was just more fun on the PS2. But see, what else did I play online? Of course, I played the Call of Duties a little. Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2. I have videos. I played Killzone a little bit, which had a very cheap... I think I covered that in my Killzone review. The Killzone community would just find the biggest explosive weapon and get a bunch of cheap kills. So I played it just kind of just as like that game to play in between games. Battlefield 2 on the PS2. Huge open world environments, 24-player maps. And then I didn't really play the later SOCOMs. Like after SOCOM 2, I didn't play 3 or Combined Assault much online. Actually, I never played Combined Assault online, but I tried playing SOCOM 3 online with the 32-player matches, and at the time, I was just playing Delta Force and Battlefield 2, and see, what else did I play online? I probably have a bunch of video samples, and there's games that I'm kicking myself for not recording footage and archiving footage of online play for the PS2, like Metal Gear Online, which I played a little bit, but I didn't play that often. The controls were kind of wonky, and those stupid shotguns. So Metal Gear Online, which came with not Subsistence, was it Subsistence? Yeah, Subsistence. Had an online mode. How many people remember that? So I had a lot of fun playing the PS2 online. I don't have any longtime friends from playing the PS2 online because it wasn't like live. Every game had its own... You can create a username in every game. It wasn't like a centralized service like Xbox Live. But then again, that means you could get on and troll with a different name if you wanted to, and you didn't have to pay money. So, like, I had a different names. Like in Delta Force, I went by Dookie Cakes. I went by, let's see. I went through Panzer Dragoon Zui. Let's see, Corn Poop. I didn't do 2D Gamer yet because I didn't have that. Maybe I did. I think I might have had that one on there too. But you could just, because it was GameSpy, and the closest thing to a centralized server was GameSpy, because it's a weird thing. I could get on Battlefront, which is another game I played a little bit. I get online Battlefront and see my friends off of Delta Force. So GameSpy kind of had a centralized service, but it wasn't like anything like... It was just kind of weird. It's like, oh, well, here's my friend list. Oh, I have a friend list. If you use the same like email and username, you could see what your friends were playing on. It's like playing Delta Force. So, but all that aside, anyways, I had a ton of fun playing PS2 online. And let's see, what other good memories for the system? YouTube. Yeah. So when I first started YouTube, I covered this kind of in my Call of Duty 4 review. When I first started on YouTube, when the retro craze was starting, I'd watch like the Happy Video Game Nerd and the Angry Video Game Nerd, and even secretly the Irate Gamer, because it wasn't cool to watch him at the time, and then just a lot of the other retro gaming channels. But I didn't have a whole lot of retro games, and plus at the time, like covering the NES, Super NES, Genesis was just burnout material. So I decided, what's the system I have the most games for? So I started covering hidden gems or underrated gems. It wasn't an official term at the time for either, but I started covering those games, and on the PS2. So if you go back as far as, I don't know, my earliest videos outside of Sonic, with the Game Genie, but mostly PS2 games, and I just cover them. And it was a lot easier whenever I was just doing straight gameplay videos and didn't have to, voice over anything. I'd write my descriptions, little reviews in the description, but, in hindsight, no one really reads video descriptions anymore, unless they're like, link in the description. But, so, I'd have a ton of fun on YouTube covering PS2 games. Like, I'd cover a new one. Like, I could put up like 5 videos in one day at that point, because it was just get 10 minutes of footage or 100 megabytes of footage. Early YouTube posting restrictions, no copyrights really, and no money, no ad revenue. But so for a while there, I was known as the PS2 guy. So I had a ton of fun on YouTube covering this system. There's so many games. Like I said, I have 400, give or take. I did my first 100 PS2 game montage, and at the time, I put I think it was the song whenever Liu Kang is fighting Reptile in Mortal Kombat. Well, at the time, you could do that on YouTube and not get a copyright claim and whatnot, but I ended up having to sound swap it for some weird song that I think I remember hearing on like an Assassin's Creed commercial. Some song I was, and I don't even know if you can audio swap with that same song anymore. So my first 100 PS2 games video, right after my first 100 PS1 games video, is kind of just like there. I don't get any ad rev off of it, but it's still up there. Maybe I should pull it down and redo it, but it's old. The second one I made was when I only had 200 PS2 games at the time, so the second one was like the crappier version of the crappier leftovers in my collection at the time, but that one's still gets more views than the original, because the original got, I don't know, I think it's banned in some countries for no good reason. But let's see, other PS2 memories. Again, I'm just so many memories. Let's see, I'll just randomly grab a game off my shelf. I'm not even looking right now, I promise. Oh, Raiden 3. That's a fun little shoot 'em up. That's my review. 1-sentence game review for Raiden 3. Fun shoot 'em up. Awesome game. Let's see. Oh, Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1. Because the console versions of Call of Duty 1 and 2 were not actually the real Call of Duty 1 and 2, they were offshoots. So Finest Hour and Big Red 1 are not Call of Duty 1 and 2, but they were if you were a console gamer. And I played this game online too. It had like tanks, and it had a little bit of a perk system going. I remember that if you got a certain amount of kills, you got some upgrades. So it's kind of Treyarch and Activision, they were kind of thinking along those lines prior to Modern Warfare, and then I think they forgot about it for a little bit and then brought it back. Anyways, let's see. I'm grabbing another game. I'm at the point where I'm just randomly grabbing games off my shelf, so. Taiko Drum Master! If I remember correctly, this one came out prior to Guitar Hero, and it has a little drum controller, which I still have. And the US version has a different soundtrack than the Japanese version. And it's all, cover bands. Because at the time, it's kind of weird. Even the original Guitar Hero was all cover bands. Because I don't know if they just didn't want to license the music, or I don't know what the difficulty was there. But you have the Dragon Ball Z theme on this. You have Toxic by Britney Spears. You have Oh, Girls and Boys, because girls don't like boys, girls like cars and money. Thank you, Good Charlotte. Let's see. My Sharona, Material Girl. Are You Gonna Be My Girl? The Jimmy Neutron theme, which I have no idea because I'm too old for Jimmy Neutron. Thank goodness we had good cartoons when I was a kid. Let me see. Tub Thumping. Yeah, so Soul Calibur 2. Taiko March, and anyway, so it's a fun little instrument game. You can play it with the controller too. I think I did whenever I showed footage. You can play with the little drum controller or just the DualShock 2. Kind of like Frequency and Amplitude, which are the precursors to Guitar Hero. which you can also play, well, those ones were controllers. Just like the original Guitar Hero, you can play it with a DualShock if you don't have the guitar controller. They ended up getting rid of that, and now I don't even have a guitar controller. But let's see. So that's another thing that kind of rose on the PS2 is music games. They were around. You had Konami's Guitar Freaks in the arcade, and even on the PS1. You had like Dance Dance Revolution, but even Parappa da Rappa. Which I have Parappa the Rappa 2 on the PS2. I still don't own the original Parappa. I have Jammer, Lammy, and Parappa 2, but I don't have the original. And I haven't even really played Parappa 2 much. But then, let's see, Guitaro Man, which is absurdly expensive now. I don't own that one yet. I have a Mad Maestro. There were a bunch of little like weird niche music games. Like there were the instrumental ones, like the Guitar Heroes and the Rock Bands. But there's also like the niche Japanese ones that were, so that kind of became like a big genre on the PS2. Let's see. Midway. Oh, I hope that wasn't expensive. Midway Arcade Treasures 3. So compilations on the PS2, Xbox, GameCube. Pretty much the generation. So retro kind of came back. Thanks to YouTube, AVGN, and all this stuff. And then the PS2 ended up getting a ton of fantastic compilations. You got the Midway ones, you got the SNK ones, you got, the Art of Fighting Anthology, Street Fighter Anthology, Street Fighter Alpha Anthology, Mega Man Collection, Mega Man X Collection. There are so many fantastic retro compilations. Did I already say Taito Legends and Taito Legends 2? Taito Legends 2 has games like Darius Gaiden, however you want to pronounce it. There's so many Capcom Classic Collection. Also, fantastic. So if you're a retro gamer and you want a lot of great compilations and don't feel like paying like a couple of dollars per game on a download service, look on the compilations on the PS2 and also GameCube and Xbox, but the PS2 had the most. Again, you have like, Metal Slug compilation. You had a ton of them. Sonic Mega Collection Plus, Sega Genesis Collection, even though the later one on the PS3 actually had a better selection of games, and like I think the newest one also has a much better selection of games as well. So the Sega Genesis ones keep getting better per console generation, but compilations don't really get released very often anymore because they want to sell you each game for like $2 or $3 to $5 a game instead of just giving you, a compilation of $20 with like 30 games on it. And I love the Midway Arcade collections. The first one has Robotron and Smash TV and some of their best, and then the second one, I think the second one has like I think that's the Mortal Kombat. It didn't have the original Mortal Kombat on there because that was in the collector's edition of one of the Mortal Kombat releases on the PS2, but has Mortal Kombat 2, 3, Pit Fighter, and some of the other ones. And then I think the third one is the one that has the San Francisco Rushes. You want San Francisco Rush 2049 and don't want to pay the Dreamcast price for it? Hunt down Midway Arcade Treasures 3 because you get pretty much the entire game. Okay, I realize I'm on the point of rambling now, but let's see. Other memories, I'm trying to think. There's so many. Not just online, early PS2, mid PS2, YouTube for me. That system lasted so long, so much longer than I think the only other one might be comparable. No, even lasted longer than the PS1. I mean, when was the last game released for the PS2? Was it 2017? That is 17 years. Or maybe it was 2016. Either way, 16, 17 years, yes. I know after a system like dies, like you'll still have some games trickle out. I remember seeing Sega Genesis games coming out in like 98 when the Saturn was already like dead or dying. Jurassic Park game, and I think there was another one, but yeah. But still, I mean, had such a long lifespan, so many games I can't get into. Let's see. Yeah, platformers. Look, I just saw Vex. I'm looking at Vex right now. So you have a bunch of hidden, underrated platformers. Vex was also on the GameCube and Xbox. Yes, there were the multi-plats, and usually they were the best on the Xbox as far as graphics and stability, but sometimes the PS2 version of a game like Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2, the PS2 version was the best version out of all three systems, and I don't know why that was. Maybe it was just sloppy ports, obviously, because the GameCube and Xbox could have handled it better, but from what I remember from the reviews, I actually don't own Hot Pursuit 2 on the GameCube or Xbox. So you had a bunch of multiplats. Look, there's Indigo Prophecy, which is done by the people who made, Heavy Rain later. See, Disagia, oh my goodness, you want an RPG, a strategy RPG that pretty much just goes on forever and ever. You can go into the items in this game and, fight battles inside an item in the game. It's absurd. Disagia is absurd. But if you want an RPG that lasts forever, buy one of those games. Capcom vs. SNK 2. Sequel to the first one, which was, in the arcades and then on the Dreamcast. And that was the dream match, because that was the fanboy argument at the time. Capcom or SNK, which one is better? SNK. I'm sorry. Yeah, SNK. I said it, and I threw the gauntlet down. SNK. I like them way better than Capcom, but that's a different story. Anyway, Skygunner, which I covered in one of my videos recently. I say recently, within the last couple years. Let's see. RPGs. A lot of the JRPGs kind of... So in the PS1 they were huge, and the PS2 they kind of fizzled out in the mainstream. People were more concerned in the Halo generation of gaming. So RPGs kind of had their day in the sun, but they kind of fizzled out as far as popularity. There were still popular RPGs, you have your obviously Final Fantasy, always popular. What's the one? Dark Cloud 2. What's the other one? I'm trying to think. I cannot remember. The one made by Dark Cloud developer. It's on the tip of my tongue, on the top of my head, and I can't think of it right now. You also had your dot hacks and your Xenosagas, and those things are going for way too much. Star Ocean, but it's kind of like the JRPGs, which were huge on the PS1, kind of fizzled back down into a more niche genre on the PS2. More mainstream things had come out. Gaming tastes had changed in the mainstream. So it was kind of got handed back to just the people who were actual fans of the genre. Of course, you had, Persona, and a couple of others. Let's see. Fire Pro Wrestling Returns. I covered that one. Cool customization. The Fire Pro series has been around forever. Let's see. Just looking at my shelf now. So many good games, so many memories. Let's see. Tribes Aerial Assault. There was a Tribes on the PS2. It did have online play. It did not have headset chatter because it came out before SOCOM. And the thing that a lot of people don't know about Tribes is it had both, because the PS2 had both 56K and Ethernet support on the system. So Tribes you could play with 56K connections. You could play the Maddens on those too. I think it was only 2 players if you played it on 56K, but it had no no keyboard or headset support, but it had a hardcore cult following. And you can still play it it's pretty much just a bot deathmatch now, but Tribe's one of the standard bearers in first-person shooters. Where do you think Halo got the idea to get in vehicles and ships and shoot at people? It wasn't originated in Halo. Halo was an interesting combination, but that's for an Xbox launch video, if anything. Let's see. I'm just randomly looking. Then you got all these weird niche games like Bombastic. I love Bombastic. Devil Dice. The sequel to Devil Dice. The Adventures of Cookie and Cream. Great memories with that game with my friend, the one who passed recently, actually on my video of that game, he's the player too. So he used to call me after work, be like, "Hey bro, can we play Cookie and Cream?" You know, we were like, well, at the time I was like 24, 25. And a bunch of 20-somethings playing this like little cutesy From Software game. That game is so fun. Adventures of Cookie and Cream. Give it a try. Play it with a friend. And by the end of it, we were yelling at each other like, "You were supposed to jump! I said jump!" Blah, blah. You know, it was fun. We had so much fun playing that game. So many niche games. Yeah, Sky Gunner. Let's see, another niche game. Let me see. Flipnik, Ultimate Pinball. What an interestingly weird game. I mean, who thought pinball games were, that popular? I remember Pinbot on the NES. I loved Pinbot. My family loved Pinbot. I was terrible at Pinbot. I am still terrible at Pinbot. Let's see. But Flipnik is a modern pinball game that doesn't suck. I know there's been other pinball games in somewhat recent memory, and yeah, they were all dookie. They were not that great, but Flipnik, look into that one. Published by Capcom. I don't know who it's developed by. Might even be developed by Capcom. Let's see. I don't. I just see Capcom on it, so maybe it was both developed and published by them. I don't see anything on the back of the box. Let's see. Klonoa 2, that game has gone stupid in price. Robot Alchemic Drive, that game was hard to find after it came out. I remember I found one copy at a game store, and even at the time it was going up like at least $60 in price. Actually I don't remember. I don't remember when it skyrocketed in price. I think it was after I showed my underrated gem video for it. Uniquely weird, flawed game, but still fun. I don't think it's worth $100+, and I never will. Klonoa 2, I think it's going around $90 to $100 last time I checked. I don't really look at the games I already own if I'm looking on eBay, so I rarely check, values or prices for what I own on the PS2. But we're still kind of in that weird era where PS2 games are actually cheap and affordable. Buy up as many as you can if you're a collector type, because it's still going to take, I don't know, within the next 10 years we'll find out which games were like the really rare, expensive ones. We're starting to get some of them, of course, like I said, Klonoa 2, Robot Alchemic Drive, but you can still find boatloads of PS2 games right now where it's like, people will just throw those at you. Same with PS3 and Xbox 360, by the way. Start collecting those if you're a collector. Start going to the store and picking up a bunch of them. Find them at flea markets, because again, it's still going to take years and years to figure out which games are the high valued ones. And I don't really care about game values. I'm not a collector. I'm a geek who likes to buy games. But it's always like those games that I like, oh, I really want to play that game, but you know what? I'll put that on the back shelf. Nobody knows about that game. And then I come back and it's like a $200 game later. I'm like, you sons of batches. And at the time, currently PS2 games are still pretty cheap. So we'll see. There are those few expensive ones. Xenosaga, which, who cares? I kind of fell out of JRPGs on the PS2. I have almost 50 RPGs on the PS1. Not Xenogears, whatevs. Anyway, and some of those RPGs, like I missed a couple of the really expensive ones, like Vanguard Bandits. I had a friend who had that game, and I totally wanted it, and I didn't buy it from him, and I should have. But on the PS2 is where I kind of fell out of JRPGs, even though I bought them. I still have quite a few of them, because I'm just like, you know what, because sometimes your gaming tastes change for a little bit, and it's like, you know what, I don't feel like playing RPGs anymore, so you fall out of it, and then you end up coming back to a genre and enjoying a genre that you kind of fell out of playing for a while, so I'd still pick them up, but I don't have nearly as an impressive PS2 RPG collection as I do PS1, even though there's no Xenogears, whatever. So JRPGs I kind of fell out, I think, but then again I think gaming fell out of JRPGs. Let's see. I don't know. I think at this point I'm just rambling. But I don't know if I really covered any great memories. Just mostly every weekend at a homie's house, just either playing SOCOM or we'd go out and rent games and just come and we'd play them. 4-player games, because I think one of us had a multi-tap. That was like the high school, after high school thing, just chilling at a homie's, playing PS2, whatever game we rented, cursing a whole lot at games like Smuggler's Run and SSX and, trash talking. And I remember, so one friend was terrible at Madden, and the other friend would always murder this friend at Madden. My friend who passed, he was terrible. He'd get murdered by my other friend, one of my other best friends, but always at Madden. But if you put Virtua Tennis or a tennis game in his hand, this dude was the Rain Man of Virtua Tennis. He would murder everyone. If there was a world championship for Virtua Tennis, he would have murdered every contender there. It's just one of those, And then I don't remember what I was good at. I was probably better at them. Well, I didn't play sports games. I didn't care. I still don't play sports games, but I don't know. Like, we all had our own strengths in games we were good at. There were whole days just chilling and taking turns at SOCOM when my stingy friend would let me play. You jerk. I'm just kidding. I don't know. So I guess I've rambled enough. This is going to be a long enough video. So, happy birthday, PlayStation 2 in North America. You have given millions upon millions of gamers hours and hours of memories, lifetimes to look back on, or memories over the lifetime. Good times, good friends, great games, and a library that still is worth exploring today. If you got rid of your PlayStation 2, you should probably look into picking one up, It's cheap collecting at the moment, except for some rare games, but other than that, happy birthday, PlayStation 2 in North America. 2D Gamer signing out.